Today we're going to talk about animations and how we get them from concept into game. And the process at which we do that is design comes to us and says, hey, we want something. So we say, okay, how can we do this? One of the things that we have to think about whenever we shoot motion capture or something that we need for the universe are metrics. What are the measurements? Is this character interacting with an object? Is this character interacting with other objects? Is the character interacting with the player? There's a lot of thought processes that go into this to figure out exactly what we need. For example, if a character is sitting at a mess hall, we need to get the metrics of that mess hall table. We then have to go out on stage and we have to build out that mess hall table to approximate dimensions that you see in game. This leads to a standardization across all mess hall tables in game, so we don't end up having 20 different mess hall tables that we now have to, instead of 50 animations, we're now doing 150 animations in order to accommodate every mess hall table that we have, or bed, or chair, or bench, or locker, you name it, whatever you can interact with. There's a metric for it and a standardization. So we go out on the stage, we build out these props or set pieces. And then actors are given very specific directions on how they're supposed to approach these objects. These are also part of the metrics. For example, when you want to sit down on a mess hall table, the actor has to approach that mess hall table and their left foot has to hit at approximately 100 centimeters out, or 1 meter out from the bench. Once they hit that mark, which actors are usually pretty good at hitting marks, they can do whatever they want to sit down onto that bench. And that's where we get kind of the fun acting that you see on the NPCs.
Hey guys, I'm working on Squadron 42. These are assets that are going to be in Squadron 42, but eventually we'll be able to implement these into the persistent universe. So we had to do a couple things. Just like Brian said, we've made sure that all the tables are now to a proper metric so that we can reuse the performances. But now that we've got this stuff in place, but it's really cool because and these obviously these are blocked. These actually come from one of our more organic cinematics. So even though maybe this one wasn't intended to, we weren't intending to use this for in-game, there's always an opportunity to look at some of that stuff and go, oh, you know what? I can extract that and make that something that has some reusability, and maybe we can apply this to the persistent universe. So here's another one. This is the hungry guy comes up and is waiting in line for the mess hall. So this is all from an initial shoot. We actually have another one that's coming in that has a lot more stuff in it.
Once we get the data back, the first thing we have to do is we have to go through and we have to analyze all the data. We got to make sure that the data handed to us from the mocap stage is clean and that there's no problems with it. We then go through a process of usually cutting the animation apart into different segments. When you use an object, like if you want to sit down in a chair, you have to break it into at least 3 segments. An enter, so you actually sit down onto the chair. A cycle, where you're cycling like I am right now on a chair. And then an exit, where you actually get up and you exit away from the chair. And these are what we call animation sets. These animation sets are very important to have a complete set in order to have an AI fully be able to go and use an object. And these animation sets are definitely expandable. We don't have to just have one cycle of the guy sitting on the chair. The guy can be like leaning on his hand, or scratching his neck, or picking his nose, or adjusting his earbuds, or whatever we can come up with that character can do in that chair. We'll shoot or animate or create, whether it's motion capture or whether it's hand key. And then whenever it goes into game, code will sit the character, the AI, down into the seat and then randomly play these actions that you see.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Landeros, and today I'm going to show you what we've been working on. And this guy will look a little funny because he doesn't have his textures on his hands, but it's basically, this is what you're going to see when the background characters are in their beds, just kind of sleeping or fussing around, just like tossing and turning here and there. Little fun stuff. we want to make sure we get a real experience, as real as we can get in the game. So we have these little minute details which you probably wouldn't see in any other normal game, but this is what kind of makes Star Citizen so real, and we're working towards something really believable. Yeah, and then the NPCs are going to be able to get in and out of their beds too, so going to be able to walk in, lay down, and the player will be able to get to do this too. Just, we need to make sure we get ins and outs, also some of every angle, so we can capture those possibilities. The character, if he wants to enter from the front, he can enter from the front. All of those need separate animations. Going to be able to see a janitor in-game use a mop and a bucket. Just going to clean up after all the Star Citizens. Yeah, potentially this guy is going to have a walk cycle of his own. He's not carrying his bucket right now, but so you'll just see him kind of drudge a bucket round with his mop. It'll be fun once we get this guy up and going. Just that little extra detail that kind of really makes the game as cool as it is. So put it on full screen for you there. When he's done with his area, he'll just pick up his bucket and he'll go.
So when we pass these animations off on design, design has something called a usable, which is an object that's placed in the universe that has these little entry nodes and attach nodes. And we have usables for pretty much everything that you can interact with. AI will say, I want to use that chair. So design will have placed this usable node on a chair. AI will navigate to that chair, align it. By the time it gets to the chair, it will have aligned itself to the entry nodes, attach, sit down, and use that object until it's ready to get up and leave. And while that object's being used, other AI will be like, I want to use a chair. Well, that one's taken. What's the next available chair? And then they'll nav to wherever the next usable chair is, or they'll wait, or they'll change their mind and go off someplace else. Sometimes we get requests that we don't have motion capture for, or we don't have time to go shoot motion capture, or maybe the motion capture stage is tied up doing cinematics for us at the time. And it'll be something that we have to get out right away. So what we'll do is we'll go and we'll hand key whatever that motion is. Sometimes it's temporary and we'll replace it later with proper motion capture. Sometimes it's not super significant, so we'll go in there and we'll just hand key it and make it look really nice.
So we're starting to work on paw tool animations, high work zones, low work zones, and we have floor work zones. So with this character we've got, we're going through, and he's still a work in progress, so we've got transitions that we need to clean up and things like that. But here you can go through, you can see like here's a full performance, we've got finger animation. This is actually one of the performances where we didn't have time to shoot the mocap, so we've actually gone through and hand keyed these. So this is the high work zone. Just so you can see there's a little bit of difference, like he pulls out his paw tool and flicks it. And what's cool about this is that this isn't a unique one-off animation. This has high reusability. You can use this on ships, you can use it on buildings, you can use it pretty much anywhere. For weapons vendors, we want it so you can actually pick the weapons up, take them off, and look at them. So from third person, this is what you would typically see. So it looks like the character's picking up and examining it. Some of these we didn't have time to go through and mocap, or we just needed, there's some things we realized after shooting, we're like, oh man, we need this, but we got to get this thing turned around. So that's a situation where I'll have to go in and I'll shoot video reference. I'll get a general idea of what we need. Here's where I'm just checking a weapon, and then this is the hand-keyed result of that. And so this is tailored towards for first person for player.
I'm going to say probably the most challenging aspect of all of this is consistency in whatever it is that we're doing. For example, if a character needs to go and use a data pad and go around and inspect things with that data pad, that data pad becomes a metric and it becomes standardized, and that all data pads in the game now match this in particular data pad. It's letting design know that when a character is going to sit down and use mobiGlass, that animation can be used across the board, and that everybody's aware of these animations. So nobody's re-requesting things that had already been finished.
And that's just a taste of what players will see in the upcoming releases. Hope you guys enjoyed.